Chapter 1. Me and Darrell Sikes. Why did I write them? Love letters to nobody, nobody who loved me back. It made me feel foolish and better at the same time. I didn't know where to mail them, so I just saved the letters in my desk. Dear Daddy, how are you? I miss you. I love you. I still love you. I'll always love you. Sometimes I wrote, when are you coming home? Sometimes I wrote, so you're never coming home? Or are you coming home? Sometimes I wrote, you can come home now. Sometimes I wrote, why didn't you take me with you? I didn't keep a very tidy desk. One day the letters poured out all over my lap, my feet, my teacher's feet. I got some of the letters back, but most of them went to the counselor, Mr. Stinger. The worst part of being in his office was watching my mom read those letters. Her face looked gray, like my letters were bad news, death news. Was she thinking I loved her less because I missed my daddy more? I felt like I was floating on the ceiling like smoke from something burning. When I came down from the ceiling, I pouted. I want my letters back. All of them. I was so mad. Isn't it against the law to reading other people's mail? Mr. Stinger took out a stack of papers, a file full of the history of me. No, not the history. A history. A history that didn't include when me and my mom go to the bookstore. I could pick any book I want, even a book in hardcover. That's the way it's always been. We never have much money, but Mom doesn't blink when the numbers ring up. She hands over the big bills like she was buying milk or eggs, something we just can't do without. I love choosing books by the pile at the library too, and listening to my mom read them to me when she's not too tired from working. She's been my best teacher. But that's not in the history. Mom looked at the file and her face went gray again, and again I felt gravity give out. Huh, look at that. A pile of messy work, of unfinished work, a sloppy diary of me since Daddy left. Why didn't I write more carefully in 3rd grade? Why didn't I finish that assignment in 4th grade? I watched as Mr. Stinger fed my letters back into the long file cabinet. The cabinet closed with a metal sound, a safe full of evidence against me, waiting there for when they need to pull it out and call me dumb. When we got out of the office, my mom talked in a low voice. What do you want me to do, Sahara? Say I'm sorry that I couldn't keep him? Fine, I'm sorry. I tried my best. Can't a woman get a divorce without her kid going special ed on her? I wanted to say, don't be sorry, Mom. I couldn't keep Daddy either. But I was wise now. I just kept my mouth shut. You gonna let Daddy walk out with your brain too? She grumbled. Then there's not going to be a vital organ left between us, is there? You just do your work, Sahara. They'll see that they've made a mistake. You'll do it, won't you? I stared her in the eye, but I didn't answer her. I knew I was being fresh and bad, but I couldn't lie and say yes. Do it for what? Do it for who? They took what I gave them. They took what I didn't give them. They used it all the same way, to feed the file. I was through giving them evidence. They wouldn't get anything more from me. Mom looked at me furious. I thought she'd slap me for the first time in my life. She didn't. She just stomped away. I stood there wishing she had slapped me. You're supposed to put an exclamation point at the end of strong feelings. A slap would have felt like that, but instead her heels clicked out her punctuation. Dot, dot, dot. I couldn't see where my sentence would end. That file, full of letters, meant I met with a special needs teacher in the hallway to get something called individualized attention. And let me tell you, working in the library with a teacher is like being the street person of a school. People pass you by, they act like they don't see you, but 3 steps away they got a whole story in their heads about why you're out there, instead of in a nice cozy classroom where you belong. Stupid, unlucky, unloved. If I could have put out a cup, I would have made some change. People from my class would hiss, "Hi, Sahara Special," because they passed to go to the washroom, and don't think they meant special like a princess or a movie star or something sparkly like that. I pretended like I didn't hear, but oh yes, I heard. And you don't just hear meanness with your ears. My cheeks heard it and turned red, my eyes heard it and stared at the wall, at my lap, and my shoes. My fingernails hurt it, and they hit away in my teeth. I heard it all through my clothes and skin and blood, all the way to my bones where it rattled in the hollow of me. The special needs teacher told me her name when I met her, but I forgot it right away. Seeing her day after day, I was too embarrassed to ask her what it was. In my mind, I just called her Peaches. In the real world, I didn't call her anything at all. In the hallway, Peaches played board games with me and talked in a whispery, cooing voice like I was a doll and we were having a pretend tea party. I ignored her as best I could to keep from throwing up on her. She would sometimes ask me if I had done my homework, and I would pretend I didn't hear. She spoke about using time well, getting things done. Don't you agree? That would make life a lot easier. I'd nod. Sure, I'll agree to that. In fact, I thought if I really were the school street person, I could drink to that. Toast it using the white milk in a carton they give at lunch, only keeping it in a brown paper bag. Here's to the people who use time well and get things done. I couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? I just shrugged. She probably wouldn't think it was funny. I'd never seen her laugh. She'd write something down, probably laughs for no reason. Finds organization funny. Peaches seemed very organized. I bet nothing fell out of her desk in her whole life. Then she asked if there was anything I wanted to talk about. And when I would say no, she would smile sweetly and look unhappy at the same time. Sometimes Darrell Sikes would sit with us in the hall. I think he's been special needs ever since dinosaurs roamed the earth, or at least since the Declaration of Independence was signed. He kicked a teacher in the shins when he was in first grade. When he was in third grade, he was finally tall enough to punch one right in the nose. At least that's what people say, but who knows what's true. Mom says not to judge a book by its cover. Even so, I couldn't help but think that if Darrell was a book, the cover would read True Crime Stories. Darrell never spoke one word to me and wouldn't look at me, and I thought he was a real gentleman for it. I did the same for him. Darrell had a different set of manners for Peaches. Darrell grunted at her as anytime she asked him to do something, as if she was disturbing him from a nap. If we were playing a board game, he'd roll the dice and move his piece backwards. If Peaches asked him a question, he'd answer by asking, "Are you married?" And batting his eyes, looking very interested. Sometimes he'd smash everything off the table with a clatter and swear, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to call your mother," Peaches would say calmly. "Well, don't you be afraid. You just go ahead and call her," Darrell hollered. "You think she cares? She cares. Why the hell would I be in the hall here with you?" I told my mom about this and about, how funny Darrell is. And the next day she came to school and we had another meeting with Mr. Stinger and Peaches. "I want her out of that program," she said, "or whatever it is you've got going on here. I'm not sending her to school to sit in the hallway with some lunatic." He's not some lunatic," corrected Mr. Stinger. "He's a human being with special needs." "Special needs," my mom sputtered. "Only special need that boy has for an old-fashioned crack across the behind. My daughter isn't spending her part of her day with a teacher beater." "It's just what people say, Mom." I pulled on her sleeve. "Don't judge a book." She shook me off. "Your daughter needs special support during this time," Mr. Stinger reminded her, and Peaches nodded. I thought to myself, that teacher just wants someone to play Uno with. "Maybe we should ask Sahara what she wants," Peaches suggested with her usual sad, happy smile. "Is this Christmas? Are you the special needs Santa Claus? Ask Sahara what she wants." Mom twisted in her seat and made a noise between a cough and a laugh. "Look, I don't got time for this. I know she's capable of 5th grade work. She reads at home. She reads plenty. I think she writes, too," she said accusingly. I didn't look at her. She whirled around in her chair and growled at me. "Sahara, tell them you like to write. Go ahead, tell them." She was telling it true. I read at home and write, too, but whatever I write, I make sure I'm by myself, and then, when I'm done writing, I rip it out of my notebook. I hide it in a binder behind section 940 in the public library where all the books about somewhere else are located. This very paper, for instance, will someday be an archaeological find. Someday someone will reach behind section 940 and find the dusty works of me, Sahara Jones. secret writer. And that person's life will be made more exciting just by reading my heart-wrenching life story and amazing adventures. Someday people will be glad I kept track. Someday people will see that I'm a writer. And because I am writing a true story of my life, I have to talk about school since I am still a kid, and it's a very big part of my heart-wrenching life story and amazing adventures. I'm sorry to report that school is heavy on the heart-wrenching, but so far has been running low to empty on the amazing adventures. But I still go, because maybe one day I'll have an amazing adventure there. Also, both the law and my mother, they both make me go. Unless I'm sick with chickenpox or getting a tooth pulled or going to a funeral. So, school is a lesser evil. Usually. Yes? I like to write. I squeaked. Mom bounced her purse on her lap and smiled as if to say, so there. Mr. Stinger looked at me sideways for a moment. Ah, yes. The letters. Oh, not just the letters I wanted to tell him. Not just those stupid letters that grew legs to follow me around. So can I have those letters back now, please? I tried to sound like honey with sugar on top. Well, we need something to show that you like to write, don't we, Sahara? Mr. Stinger smiled. We certainly don't have any schoolwork to make that point, and this is what I'm talking about. Where is the work, Mrs. Jones? Where is the work? She doesn't do it here. You're saying she doesn't do her work? So take care of your business. Failure. Failure like a normal kid. That failure will be between me and my daughter then. You won't like it if her failure is between me and you. Well, there are serious repercussions to retention, blah, blah, blah. My mother can be very rude. So they promised to fail me. Remember, you asked for it, they said to my mother. They made her sign a form, and then another, and then another. The door closed. We stood out in the hall. I knew they were talking about my mom behind the glass, saying mean things about her, about what sort of mother would deny her child individualized attention. But Mom was smiling, and I was proud. Really proud of my mom for not being afraid of failure. I am. I'd sooner not try than fail. They may think I'm stupid, but I'm not. Knowing I'm not stupid is enough for me. I'm enough for me. When my mother smiled at me, I could see I was enough for her too. At least for that moment. I walked back to my classroom, past the little table outside the door where Darrell was sitting in the public of the hallway waiting for Peaches to return, drawn on the side of his shoe with a black marker. He didn't look at me and I didn't look at him, but in my head I said, oh, thank you, Darrell Sikes. Thank you for being wild and nasty and rude and getting me out of the program and making me normal dumb, not just special dumb. I owe you one, Darrell Sikes. But I couldn't imagine how I would ever pay him back.